Ramadan 2022. It's Eid. I'm at the park at the fun fair with my children. And my two older sons, they're with me, and we're talking, we're going backwards and forwards, we're having a laugh, we're having fun. And all of a sudden, I posed a scenario to them because I wanted to see what their mindset would be and how they would react in this situation. And I said to them, imagine that you have found yourself in a situation where you're on your phone, you're using your phone, and then some boy comes up to you. Maybe he's your age, maybe he's a bit older, maybe there's one of them, maybe there's two of them. But let's just say there's one of them. Fair fight. But he pulls out a knife. And he holds this knife to you, and he says to you, give me your phone or I will stab you. And I ask my sons, what would you do in this situation? And they responded to me in the typical form that I would expect a teenager to respond to me in. I'm going to do this to him. I'll trip his legs. I'll do that. I'll do the third. And I said to them, no, you don't do any of that. Do you know what you do? This is what you do. And I said to them, pay attention, listen carefully. You give the boy your phone and you walk away. The end. They said to me, what? How can you do that? What are you talking about? You know, you've got to fight him. I said, no. Give the boy your phone and walk away. And live to see another day and buy another phone. Because, okay, it's one-on-one in this scenario. It could be more, by the way. If it's two or more men, then definitely you give the phone. But even if it's one-on-one, he has flipped the table by pulling out a knife. It's no longer a fair fight. Even if you're a trained fighter, it's no longer a fair fight. There's no rules anymore. He has a knife. Nobody has a knife in the cage or in the ring. No one has a knife there. Everything changes when someone pulls out a blade. Or maybe if you live in a country where guns are legal, a gun, even more so. Even more so this applies. There is a time to be a coward. There is a time and a place for it. And really, I use that title as clickbait to force you to click on the video, but it's not cowardice. It's actually smart. It's understanding that you are in a situation whereby the odds are stacked against you. And this is super important. Don't pick a fight or sign yourself up to a fight where the odds are stacked against you. When someone pulls out a knife, the odds are stacked against you. If somebody pulls out a gun, the odds are stacked against you. I don't care if you know Wing Chun or you know some next move that can disarm the knife, some Krav Maga or some, I don't know what, bruv. Yeah, unless you're like super high level trained in knife work, for example, then maybe this is a fair fight for you. I'm not trained in knife work at all. If somebody comes up to me and pulls out a blade and says to me, give me your phone, I'm probably going to give them my phone. I'm probably going to give them the phone. Why? Risk to reward. The risk to reward ratio is not high enough. The risk in this instance here, or I should say, let's start with the reward. The reward is I get to keep what's already mine. It's not really much to shout about. It's already mine. I get to keep it. Okay, great. But the risk is I die. I get stabbed in a vital organ. I bleed out. I die. I leave eight kids behind with no father. The risk is far too high. It's not worth it. Give the phone. There is a time for being a coward. And as I say, it's not cowardice. It's understanding that the battleground and the landscape of the battleground has been flipped against you. It's no longer a fair fight. My wife once asked me, she said to me, do you think you would be able to take on some of these professional fighters in the heavyweight division? I laughed. I said to her, they would destroy me. Not only would they destroy me, they would destroy me and it would look beautiful because trained fighters, the way they beat you up, if you've ever seen a trained fighter fight in real life, it's beautiful. It's different to watching it on TV as well. It's really beautiful how a trained professional fighter can pick you apart. It's like art. They're artists of their craft. I said to her, They would destroy me, and it would look beautiful as well. They would destroy me in a beautiful way. And she was surprised by my answer. I appreciate your lofty impression of me, but no. You need to know yourself. You need to know your strengths. You need to know your weaknesses. You need to know who you are. Know thyself. I am not a professional fighter. I'm a gym bro fighter. That's the level that I classify at. Gym bro. That's it. Know thyself. And I'm taking this video off of the back of the video I did yesterday, which I'll put up in the cards here or over there. But I'll also put it in the end screen as well, if you haven't watched it. And it caused quite a bit of a stir amongst you guys. And the title of yesterday's video, what was it? It was, Are You Unfit to Be Called a Man? And in that video, I give the story of an incident that happened when I went to the petrol station or the gas station to fill up with gas. And an incident broke out whereby my wife was violated, disrespected by some individual. And then I mentioned in the video what I did to him and so on. And just watch the video again. I'm not going to repeat it. However, looking at the comments from some of you guys, I can see it's caused quite a bit of controversy. And I'm going to read a couple of these comments. Sarah Osman, she makes a very good comment here. And she says, as a woman with many brothers, I was trained not to get men into fights over nonsense. Words are words as long as the man did not touch her physically or get in her personal space. It can end in them killing or being killed or jailed. Many men have been killed by one punch to the wrong place. And she's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. There's nothing more or less that can be added to this. This is 100% correct. And I'm going to read a couple more of the comments before I actually give my personal take on this as well. Birthday Cake Peep says, all men at bare minimum should be engaged in physical discipline consistently at all times. I don't care if it's fighting or swimming or lifting weights, but there has to be something. This idea that you can call yourself a man and not be physically competent in one way or another is a modern lie fed to men to make them weaker. Very good. Very good comment. Itachi Ullah, my man. Mahdi, your example was amazing, but what if there were multiple men instead? Would you have done things differently? I'm worried I might be in this situation one day, trying to protect my wife. Excellent comment, and I will answer that. If there were multiple men, would I have conducted myself differently? Absolutely. 100%. Never sign yourself up to a fight that you are damn certain you are going to lose. There is a reason why fighters who compete, they are moved up the ladder slowly. They are managed. It's called managing a fighter. You don't throw a professional fighter, for example, who's got 3 fights under his belt, immediately into the deep end with the world title holder. He will get annihilated, demolished. So if there's levels even amongst pros, then what do you think about amateurs like myself and probably yourself as well? If there are levels amongst the professionals, then there are most definitely levels amongst amateurs. You need to know the landscape. Never did you see in some type of fighting organization whereby you have 3 men who are fighting 1 guy, and that has become a thing. That's not a thing in fight sport. Why? Because it's unfair. It's obvious. It's obvious. This is going to be a walkover. This is not competitive. And therefore, it's not interesting. So if you find yourself in a situation whereby, in the example I gave, just as the brother has said here, what if there are multiple men? You assess the situation and say, you know what? The risk is greater than the reward. What was the reward in this instance? The reward was I wanted to teach that young man a lesson. I reckon he was in his early 20s. I wanted to teach him a lesson so that when he sees another Muslim woman on the street again, he doesn't make the same mistake again. But if there were 3 or 4 of him, would I have done the same thing? No, almost definitely not. I would have looked at it and said, this is not a fair fight. The reward of me teaching him a lesson is not as great as the risk of something potentially fatal, as Sarah Osman has mentioned, happening to me. Therefore, I'll leave it alone. But what if there were 5 or 6 of me and 3 or 4 of them? Would I approach them? Probably yes. So you see, you have to assess your situation. You need to manage your ego, firstly and foremostly. Manage your ego. Us men, we all have egos, and that's a good thing because it helps us to conquer and push forward the boundaries of innovation and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it can get in the way. It can get you in trouble. It can get you dead. It can get you dead. So you need to manage that ego. Al-Rubai says that was probably the worst way to handle the situation, especially in Western society. And Electro T says, what if Brock Lesnar did that to your wife? Well, you see, again, I refer back to what I said at the beginning. You need to know yourself. Can I take on a professional heavyweight boxer, MMA fighter and so on? He will wipe the floor with me. In fact, he'll toy with me. I'm not a pro. Know thyself. Know thyself. Know thyself. As a general rule, you're going to want to avoid physical confrontation. As a general rule. And I can't remember the last time I had a physical fight in public. I really can't. It's probably school, to be honest with you. And much of that is to do with the way I carry myself. Not to polish my halo or anything like this, but if you see me in person, I'm quite an imposing, I have quite an imposing figure. 110 kilos. Okay, I'm quite tall and that's something that's out of your control. But I'm lean, I'm muscular, and I'm clearly not somebody who doesn't work out. I clearly take care of myself. And when another man sees that, when men see that, like I walk in alleyways late at night on my own, on my phone. I can walk past like groups of 3 or 4 boys. Wallahi, nobody even looks at me. They just don't bother. Why? Could those 3 or 4 boys not take me on? Almost definitely, especially if they're bladed up. Definitely if they're bladed up. They'd take me out in 2 seconds flat. But why don't they bother in the first place? Because they look at me, they see me and they think, oh man, all right, fine, we'll be able to beat him up and everything, but he's going to put up a fight. And I don't want to get with someone I don't want to try to attack someone who's going to put up a fight. He might hurt me in the process. So just that seed of doubt is enough to put off the potential assailant. It's enough to put them off. They don't bother because they look at you, and us men, we eye each other up and down. We're like, I wonder, you try to figure out where, could you take him on? Could you not? We have a hierarchy between us, even if it's not verbalized. And just that thought of, oh, he's going to put up a fight. It's going to be all long. I might get hurt in the process. I might break a limb. You know what? Forget that. Let me just wait for some next stupid girl who's going to come here in the middle of the night on her own thinking she's safe. I'll take her stuff instead. That's what these people do. Enough for you to just instill the seed of doubt just by the way you look. You look physically competent because you're in shape, you're lean, you've got a decent amount of muscle on you. Khalas, alhamdulillah. Prevention is better than cure. Prevention is better than cure, and that's a preventative medicine in and of itself. But going back to the beginning of the video, as I said to my sons, he pulls out a blade, you give him the phone. You think that this could end badly, you don't bother getting yourself into the fight in the first place. If the risk outweighs the reward, don't get involved.